Welcome everyone, all those in attendance and the viewing audience at home. And just remind anyone with electronic apparatus if you would shut it off, and if you get an emergency phone call, if you'd just take it out in the hall, please. And with that, you see everyone is in attendance, and ask if there's any declaration of conflicts amongst the council members. Nope, thank you very much. There you go.
Item number 3.
Oh, excuse me. Oh, excuse me, Mr. Clerk. I'll be the first one to make a mistake in your audience. I'll turn this over right now to our clerk, or our treasurer, Donna Hunter, to introduce our newest member to our team, Roger Auger, Manager of Legislative. Robert, I should say. Got a relative with that name. In services, and our clerk, Ms. Hunter.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and through you, Your Worship. Just as a form of introduction for Rob, Rob is a practicing lawyer and has been practicing for 15 years. For the past 8 years, he's been in-house legal counsel for a pre-stressed group. As a longtime resident of Windsor, Essex County, Rob graduated from the University of Windsor with a Bachelor of Arts and a Bachelor of Commerce before he started studying law. Rob is also a part-time instructor at St. Clair College. I hope everybody will join me in welcoming Rob. We're really looking forward to working with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna, and thank you, Your Worship. Item 3 on the agenda, adoption of published agenda.
Moved by Councillor Snively, supported by Councillor Caxero. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Item 4, adoption of minutes. Item 4A, January 6, 2016, special public meeting.
Moved by Councillor Bjorkman, supported by Deputy Mayor Malash. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Item 4B, adoption of minutes from the January 18th, 2016 regular council meeting.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Malash, supported by Councillor Caxero. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
And item 4C, adoption of minutes from the January 28th, 2016 special council meeting.
Moved by Councillor Bundy, supported by Councillor Vokes. Any questions? All in favor? Motion carries.
Item number 5, public presentations. Your Worship and members of council, we have a number of public presentations. Just a reminder that there's a 5-minute limit on those presentations if possible. Firstly, under 5A is the Member of Provincial Parliament from Essex, Taras Nanashek.
On behalf of the council, welcome. Taras.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. As is protocol, I defer my time to my colleague at the federal level, our MP, Tracy Ramsey.
Welcome, Tracy, on behalf of the council members.
Thank you very much, and thank you to Taras. That wasn't necessary, but I appreciate it. We're not that formal between the two of us. We're working together as a team. So I just would like to say thank you for having me here tonight, and to introduce myself for those of you who I haven't met already, and let you know that I've been working very hard, even though we're just over 100 days in the federal government. Our constituency office is fully up and running here in Essex. I don't know if you've seen us. We're on the main street there, pretty hard to miss, I think, with all that orange in the plaza, which is pretty fantastic. So we are, located right next to the MPP's office, which hopefully will serve those in the region that are traveling into town, because often, we find that people have issues and they're unsure whether it's federal or provincial, or maybe they actually need both of our offices. So we're happy to be able to be working together in that way. I'd like to bring forward that we have the Canada Summer Jobs Program that's open right now, And so if you know anyone who has a not-for-profit or a small business who's interested in accessing some funds for summer employment, please encourage them to contact our office as soon as possible for that. The application period ends the end of the month, so there is a little bit of a window of time. We're hopeful that we'll have full participation in that program so that we can employ some youth over the summer in the riding of Essex. One of the things that I need to bring forward to you is that the government is currently in pre-budget consultations. We expect a federal budget sometime in the next 5 to 6 weeks. We haven't had a hard date set as of yet. Unfortunately, the current government is only doing those pre-budget consultations by invitation and in certain areas. So I'm here today to say that any requests that you have can be processed through my office, and I request that you send them to my office. So any funds that you're looking to seek or access, that you please send those to me, and we will forward them on through our finance critic in our party. So actually an email will be coming out from my office staff here in Essex in the next couple of days, but in the case that you don't receive that, as it works its way through the email chain, please get in touch with the office, because we'd like to have those submissions so that we can put forward the funds that are necessary in our communities and really be pushing, not just for the infrastructure funding that's been promised by the government, but for all funding that municipalities are looking to access. We definitely want to see our fair share of that budget coming down to Essex and definitely down to southwestern Ontario. So I think that's about it. We're up and running in the government. I've been very happy to be able to get up and speak on numerous issues. I'm happy to report that we are pushing forward on pay equity at a federal level, which I think sets a standard across the country for women to be able to have equal pay for equal work in Canada. We also are quite happy to have repealed some of the legislation that was under our former government that applied to labor unions that we think will keep money in our communities, funding programs in our communities that organized labor has been happy to participate in throughout the years. So I just bring greetings on behalf of myself, and also to let you all know that I'm available at any time. Please get in touch with me, email me, phone my office if you have any questions at all, or if you think there's someone that I should be meeting with, you can facilitate that. I would love that. I'm looking to connect with people all across the riding in all types of issues. So I really look forward to working with all of you, and I will have an open door policy. Thank you very much for your time tonight.
While you're in the hot seat, Ms. Ramsey, I'll just ask if there's any questions before we get to Taras. Any questions? Councillor Kexero.
Through your worship, for that jobs program, Tracy, if there's anybody interested and they're not sure, they can contact the office for more information?
Yeah, absolutely. They can contact the office anytime.
Thank you. Taras.
Thank you very much, Your Worship. Thank you to members of council and to administration for facilitating myself and my colleague in being here today. What has been a tradition since I was elected, a yearly opportunity for me to come and simply connect with members of council. Later on this afternoon or this evening, we will be heading right to Kingsville to touch base with Kingsville Council and to connect with those folks. I'll be really brief. We're in the same position provincially where the provincial budget consultation process has just ensued. A couple of weeks ago we had delegations in Windsor. There was a reoccurring theme from deputants that hopefully makes up what the priorities of the provincial government will be in the context of the budget. One was access to health care and quality health care and healthcare in rural and remote areas. Certainly something that is fundamental in our province. The second was employment opportunities and economic development, and the third was infrastructure, all under the guise of, if you can imagine, rising and skyrocketing hydro rates. So those were four themes that you will hear myself focus on during the next sitting of the legislature, which starts next week. But I'm sure those are themes that you're hearing within your areas, people having a hard time making ends meet when it comes to affording the rising cost of hydro, and of course access to good quality health care. You'll also know that I joined with Mayor Drew Dilkins and Warden Tom Bain to and my colleague Percy Hatfield to send a signal to the provincial government that Essex County and Windsor are ready for the new hospital, acute care hospital, at the County Road 42 site. I know there's been great leadership from Essex Town Council. I applaud your efforts and I thank you for your efforts, but now's the time to move to phase 2 to ensure that nothing gets in the way of that vital piece of infrastructure and healthcare that we're going to need for generations to come. So that I'm going to be leading the way for our caucus in that area, along with my colleagues, but it's certainly something that I feel passionately about, something that I'm going to focus on. With that, I would be pleased to take any questions that you might have. And of course, it's great to see each and every one of you, and I thank you for the relationship that we've had. I know it's it's easy for me to get in touch with you, and our office to get in touch with you, various councillors in your worship, and I hope that relationship is felt on the other end. I look forward to working with you and continuing to work with you. I think there's great things to come in the future for our region. Thanks so much.
Thank you, sir. Any questions of Taras? Councillor Bondy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Quickly, I'll add in a comment for Tracy, too. This Thursday, we're meeting and we're talking budget again in Essex, so I'm sure we'll be making a little list and sending it over, maybe a big list and sending it over to your office. So thanks for coming. As you know, we've recently got turned down for a few grants, so it's kind of disheartening when we have a lot of high-level needs in our community, drainage and flooding to be one, infrastructure, of course. Taras, so we have sent our premier a letter about our high school asking if she would be willing to meet with our mayor and maybe possibly a couple administrators and another council member, and we have not heard back. So if you have any tips on how to get her attention, we would love to solidify that meeting with her. And I also want to thank you for continuing to advocate on behalf of our community with the closure of Harrow High School. And we have more updates that are coming up with that. We plan on becoming a delegation to the board meeting on February 16th. So I just want to thank you, and if you have any tips on how we can make that connection happen, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bondy. I have a couple of really good ideas about how to get the Premier's attention. I don't know if any of them would be in order, but one of the ways that I can certainly do that is on Tuesday morning when I see her in the chamber at the Ontario Legislature. I hopefully will have a copy of the letter that you had sent to her, and I'll hand deliver it myself, asking for a date and a time when you know, members can make a delegation to her in a presentation. But on the note that you asked Tracy about in terms of funding, and either at the federal or provincial level, there's a lot of frustration being expressed from regions in southwestern Ontario, but you know, specifically Essex County, from municipalities that are getting, you know, bypassed when it comes to provincial funding without any rationale, without any reasoning at the end of the day. So you apply for your grants through the Municipal Partnership Fund, and you're just simply told no, without, you know, being indicated as to why or what you could have done, you know, next time, or actually how your application falls short. I think that's wrong, and I think that you know, municipalities put a lot of effort into those applications and a lot of thought and due diligence, and at the least, the province can give you an explanation as to why you're being passed over. I would hate to think it's because your financial position is good, and therefore you don't need the money, because you know, you've put a lot of work into ensuring that your financial position is in your financials are in good shape. That shouldn't be the case, and I know there are other regions, LaSalle, Lakeshore, are feeling that frustration, and I'm certainly willing to work with you on that regard as well.
Anyone else? Well, thanks to both of you, and Councillor Volk, sorry.
Thank you, Your Worship. Therese, I actually did, and I'm glad you raised that as an issue tonight, and I'm certainly glad that Sherry Bondy, Councillor Bondy, has raised it, because let's not kid one another. You know, we're like a Florida orange orchard with all the orange around here, and let's not make no mistakes about it, Therese. You know as well as I do sitting there that it's going to end at Chatham. In terms of the Liberal government and dispensing funding, it's not going to be easy for you, nor is it going to be easy for Mr. Ramsey. We get that. But we do understand you're our voice here, and you've always been a strong voice for us. You've been a voice of reason and a voice that has produced a harvest. And we're hoping that your voice, along with Mr. Ramsey now, can bring some of those grants to fruition, because they're so vital to us. They're so vital to us, and I think it's reflecting that in early terms of the current governance, that there is maybe some conflict. And I think it would be healthy to sidebar to let those in power there in the Liberal government, that we at this bar aren't fools, and we're watching, and we're trying to understand. So we do appreciate everything you both doing for us, and I thank you for the time, Your Worship. Thanks.
Okay. With regards to the letter, I'm sure they're in the process of getting that letter to you right now, Taras. So
very good.
You will have it when before you get down there, for
Excellent.
sure. Thank you very much to
Thanks
both of
again.
you. We look forward to all the help we can get from both of you. Thanks. That purple button, Taras, on your machine there. Thanks.
Your Worship, next presentation is Chris Carter speaking to the use of the Colchester Schoolhouse for community groups.
Welcome, Chris. Again, I'll just remind you that you have 5 minutes, delegations, okay? Thanks.
Yes, I guess I'll use the microphone, not normally have to, and thank you, Your Honor, for letting me come in today, and the council for letting me speak. What I wanted to bring up, and I've been trying to get an answer for quite a few years, is what is happening with the schoolhouse or the community center as it's mapped out on the town plan for the schoolhouse in Colchester. Many of you may not know me, but my name is Chris Carter, and I'm a local historian. I get out to at least 2 public events per month, selling my books and doing presentations to different groups around the county. But with that, anyways, 3 different groups have come up and saw me because about putting an art center somewhere in the town of Essex. One group, or 2 groups, I'm sorry, mentioned the schoolhouse by name. What they like about it is the fact of the little parquet right across the road where you can sit and do your drawing or painting or whatever. And one of them even gave me a whole comprehensive plan for the arts in Essex. I'm not here on behalf of the ACT group, which I am a member, but like I say, my main question is there any plans to get this schoolhouse open in the near future? Because I know there was a meeting, a town meeting, and a report done 2 or 3 years ago. So that is my question today.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Snively.
Through your worship, Chris and I had conversations on this already, just recently. It's on the agenda tonight, the school, what I'd like to see done with it, Chris. It's been sitting there. I think we purchased that school in when? 10 years now we've had that school? 2008 we bought that school. It's been sitting there. We've put money into it. And to me, I'll be blunt, okay? I think it was money not well spent. As far as your art gallery or what you like to do, I'm all in favor of that, but not at that location. We have the Harbor Restaurant, which I spoke to you on the Harbor Restaurant already. It's empty. I'd like to see that occupied, and if it's council's wish, I would like to direct you in that direction of the Harbor Restaurant. You're overlooking the harbor. I think it's a better location. There's more room for you there, and I don't know what you think of that, Chris, but I run it by you before, and I never got a response from you. So, yes, I don't have a problem with that location. I don't know what council's thinking on that myself, obviously, but that is why I came, is to find out. People are asking about that location. They're asking me. I've referred them to the town. I don't know if they've got here or not. That's up to them. I'm nobody special. They see me. They ask. I say I'll find out, and like I say, I also tell them to call town hall. So I don't know if that's got this far or not. It doesn't matter at this time. It's it'd just be nice for the community to have an answer anyways. Okay, but I thank you, Councillor Snively, for your opinion. It is something, I'm not sure, like I say, what council as a whole thinks, or if that's something we want to see on the harbor, but like on the waterfront, but I definitely can take that, and I think it would be okay in there.
Through your worship.
Yep. Go ahead.
Just in response to that, Chris, it's like I'm working for the ratepayer, and I got to be responsible for ratepayers' money. We have $518,000 tied up in that building already, and I can't justify spending another penny on it. And that's the only reason I'm steering you to the Harbor Restaurant. I think it's a better location for you.
Okay, thank you, and I do agree it's a good location, and I can, you know, I can suggest that to the three groups if they want to look at that as an option, and that, like I say, that's what I'm looking for today. So, is some kind of suggestion or some kind of answer. They really don't care where. They just want in this town. One of the three groups I forgot to mention is wanting to change the first word in their name, which is Windsor, to regional. And they felt that somewhere in Essex would be regional as opposed to their location currently in Windsor.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Vokes.
Thank you, Worship. I may want to share with you, I think we have opportunities probably within inside our municipality. I got to tell you, my daughter, who respectfully a year ago in August had passed away, was a local artist in the region. She had a series of artwork that was called "She Couldn't Be Good," and it was pinup girls and pictures from the 50s era. And even today, as I sit here today, Priscilla's artwork is on display at the Essex Library. Around the top, all around the series of her artwork. So if we have local artists and they bring a value-added piece of artwork, then we should be looking at our community centers, we should be looking at our arenas, we should be looking at our nurse practitioner offices, our libraries, and consolidate those particular artists and look at ways of displaying them in our local offices where people migrate through all day long. And then some type of caption at the bottom, artwork, who did it, and whatever the series may be. I just don't like the idea of saying, no, we can't do it in that building, so therefore, no, we can't do it at all.
Thank you, sir. Councillor Bondi.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, Chris, for coming. I know it's sometimes it takes a lot of guts, and you have to make time in your schedule to come speak to us. So I think that going forward, I think the best thing now would be you to meet with Doug Sweet and see what's available and see if using the on top of the Harbor Restaurant is a reality. I think it could possibly be a great fit. It's currently not set up as a restaurant, so it's not like you don't need a full kitchen. So that would be an idea. Another thing that we've been doing in our town is. I would say this is more one of the frilly things because we're really going back to the nuts and bolts of our community, and the nuts and bolts are infrastructure and the frills that are happening. Like a lot of people in Harrow Center, for example, say that we want a dog park. And I will say, okay, we'll get a committee together and start fundraising and come to council like the residents in Essex Center did. We're doing a lot of grassroots fundraising for some of these higher level things. Because if you look at, I have a copy of and I just double checked, this is the 2016 budget here, and if you look at it, and your first question was, what are we doing to with the old school? We have $75,000 in there, but that was from, I believe, 2012. And it's going to take a lot more than $75,000 to get that property up to where we want it. I honestly agree with Councillor Snively that we should possibly be looking at that as a property to get rid of, to downsize. Sometimes, less is more in terms of maintaining our municipality. When we did the pirate ship, we took away the basketball courts in Colchester. And I hear to this day, when are you bringing back those basketball courts? So, and we're not even doing that. So, I love your idea, and I would love to see a couple of you that are spearheading this meet with Mr. Sweet and see if we can work out an agreement. I don't know right now if any tenders or any interested parties have come through. I know we did a request for interest with the harbor. I'm not sure if anybody came, but I don't want that building sitting idle. either. And you know, I think with a little bit of money, you could get the Harbor Restaurant up to a studio style facility. So thank you for coming. But oh, another thing, our budget is like over $2 million over budget right now, and I think Councillor Caxero said the other day that that's like 16%. And that's not including anything with the old schoolhouse. So if we want to do something with the old schoolhouse, we're looking at 18 to 20% of an increase on taxes, which I don't think anybody wants at this point. So thank you.
Thank you very much for the time.
Okay, nothing further from council or administration? Any comments with statements that were made? Nothing? We're okay? Okay. Oh, Councillor Snagany.
Through your worship, I agree with Councillor Bondi. Chris, if you get in touch with Doug and meet with Doug and go through what's available in our municipality.
And again, thank you. Yes, I will do that, but like you say, people are asking about that particular building. There's lots of land there and stuff, so it looked appealing to those people. I will let the groups know that in the near future, at least, it's not available. And of course, I know you have it on the agenda, so I'll listen to what's being discussed at that time. Thank you.
Mr. Carter.
Your worship, next presentation is from Ben Klundert, BK Cornerstone, speaking to interim control bylaw number 1450. And I believe as part of that, Director of Infrastructure and Development, Chris Nepsey, will give a verbal report.
Yes, sir. Mr. Klundert?
I was wondering if I could...
You with that, Mr. Nepsey? Okay, sure.
Okay, thank you, Worship. I've got a summary, I guess, a little bit of background for council, and then more importantly, I guess, where we're going from here. So bear with me through a little bit of the repetition that I think you guys have heard a couple of times, but it'd be good for everybody to hear again on how we got where we're going. So following the severe weather storm events in the last couple of years, in which a lot of our residents were affected by flooding, both storm and sanitary flooding, the town, with a council push, began down the road of improvements on both infrastructure and policy. And it's key to designate the two there. Council unanimously issued an interim bylaw on construction in the town of Essex while these issues were corrected. That was last year. So the issues are both infrastructure and capital improvement related, and policy and standard practice related. So it's both. On the infrastructure side, we've already started to begin picking off the low-hanging fruit. So throughout the last year, we've inspected every sanitary manhole in the town of Essex. We've installed over 300 pan inserts into the sanitary manholes. Basically what that is a pan insert that goes under the manhole lid, prevents any water when the road is surcharged. It prevents any water from entering the manhole. So again, over 300 of those have been installed. We've done countless minor infrastructure upgrades to tighten up the system to try and reduce that inflow and infiltration that we're seeing in those severe weather events. We've raised manholes to get them out of low-lying areas. We've grouted or waterproofed manholes if they showed evidence of degradation. We've performed flow monitoring, and from that created a model of the entire sanitary sewer system. That's allowed us to forge forward with solutions on that capital side to alleviate flooding, reduce the hydraulic grade line in both the sanitary and storm manholes. Simply put, getting that water out of the town faster and more efficiently. The Flooding Advisory Committee was formed. They were formed to push issues and maintain those issues at the forefront, and they've done that successfully. From that committee, we've initiated the subsidy program. That allows homeowners to improve their own infrastructure. And to date right now, we've had over 50 successful applicants, and doled out approximately $50,000 in subsidy funds these Essex residents to improve their own infrastructure. In addition, the Flooding Advisory Committee is currently working on a downspout disconnect program, as well as a media campaign to kind of get renewed interest back on that subsidy program. It's kind of been in a lull, so we're looking at doing another blitz in the spring when these capital improvements start, to get that out there and have these people help themselves, but also help the rest of the system. So with respect to capital improvements, the engineers have worked diligently to get the design, and we've created, and based on that new sanitary model, we're moving ahead with more than $4 million of capital works this year just in Essex Center on the sanitary system. The capital works are going to be broken into 2 contracts, one being more the horizontal construction, or the pipes in the ground and the force main works. The other one being more the vertical construction. We've got some pump station upgrades and some a flow distribution chamber to be constructed across the highway to allow the water. We're going to pump it to that chamber and then to divert it to the lagoons in these severe weather events. As well, we're going to be replacing and oversizing the sanitary sewer on Bryan West, which is going to help alleviate flooding on the east side of town. We received final comments from the ministry last week with respect to the environmental assessment, or the EA process, so that is generally completed, which is good news. We've recently applied for the certificate of approval for the engineering works, and we will push the ministry and probably be tapping on Terrace's and Tracy's shoulder in order to push that approval through, to get those approvals ASAP. The goal for those infrastructure improvements, the 2 I mentioned, both contracts and that $4 million worth of work, is to be done in this construction season. I don't know when exactly, but before winter. So that's the infrastructure side, the hard nuts and bolts of it. That's one aspect of it. The intercontrol bylaw is also very hinged and very dependent on, probably more so, on the policies and the standards moving forward. So there's a couple of things going on concurrently with respect to those policies and standards. IRCA is soon to be completing a study on the intensity, duration, frequency curves. We always hear the 1 in 2, the 1 in 5, the 1 in 100-year storm. Those curves are what models the amount of rain that comes in those storms. What we have is not a regional IDF curve, so what IRCA's done is we're trying to get something that fits with our region, with our storms and our history and what works. They've worked with the research they've done using proper modeling techniques and whatnot to get that is instrumental in moving forward with those IDF curves. They're looking to wrap that up by the end of the month. So in the next few weeks, they should have that wrapped up. How that ties to, we're also partners with IRCA, with the City of Windsor and with all the municipalities in Essex County. IRCA is going to be leading this, though. They're creating a new regional stormwater management technical guide, looking at something regional, which I think is key, so that we're not pitting municipality against municipality. We're all looking at the same technical guide for the same stormwater management issues that we're all experiencing. They're going to be reviewing MOE guidelines. They're going to be reviewing everybody's independent stormwater management guidelines and designs in their standards. Flood controls, overland flow routing, receiving body issues, reduction of inflow to the storm systems, backwater conditions, inlet capacities. They're going to be looking at stormwater quality, erosion control, hydrologic and hydraulic analysis, climate change, and maintenance requirements. So they're doing an in-depth study that's going to use those IDF curves in order to create these technical guidelines that fit our region. Their timeline, from what I've been told, is to be completed somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 to 10 months from today. So around the same time that our capital works, hopefully, are wrapping up, as long as everything goes well that way. As well, while IRCA is looking at those issues, the town itself, it was in your 2016 budget, is looking to model and review the stormwater system in the town. So we've done the sanitary. But the sanitary and the stormwater are tied. I mean, the water, it's rainwater getting into both. So we're looking at modeling our stormwater system. You know, within each development, we look at the independent scope, I guess, of that development or that subdivision agreement and how it works. We've never done an in-depth study for the entire town to see how our system is operating and how it's functioning. So that's something that may lead to some capital improvements that will help the stormwater system as well. So that's something we're doing, and that's going to be happening over the next few months as well. They're on the final stages of the model, and they're looking to tweak that. So all in all, there's a lot going on. I mean, we're tackling these flooding issues, both capital and policy side related. What I don't have, and I know what Ben is here to ask, is when is that date when that interim control bylaw is going to be lifted? I don't have that. I don't have it because it's based on both. You know, I'll have a better idea when the infrastructure is done. I'll have a better idea as we move down, as IRCA moves into this regional stormwater guideline, because ultimately that'll affect our development standards and how we move forward with respect to stormwater management. What I can say is, in all likelihood, what we have now is insufficient, and it'll be improved as far as what we're asking for of builders and developments moving forward with respect to stormwater guidelines. So that's it, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Nepsey. Any questions? Chris? No. Councilor Bergman? No. And Councilor Volks?
Thank you, Your Worship. Chris, just to be clear, because one of the things I was understanding with the interim control bylaw is that it was mainly the policy that we needed to, it wasn't tied as much to the actual construction of the expanded sanitary sewers or the stormwater, but that it was principally a policy issue that once we have the plan and the policy in place, that we would be able to lift the interim control bylaw. Is that a true statement, or is it waiting until the physical is done?
Through Your Worship, it's both. Definitely the policies is a major factor in moving forward with development, because it's setting those policies for which development and building takes place moving forward. So for sure, it's a large factor. Although we also know, and we've seen in our severe weather events we've had, the system itself is deficient. It's not handling those rain events. So it's both. It's both.
Okay. Good. Councilor Volks?
So Chris, in terms of policy development, what are we looking at? Like, what does it take to get that policy developed and, you know, make that document to guide us? Like, I guess my question in simple layman terms, not too heavy in the engineering side, Chris, please, is what are we really looking at in terms of getting that policy together, getting our infrastructure concerns, as you had itemized, up to date, where it would allow us as a council to lift that moratorium on the safe side. Like, that's what we need to know, right, Chris? We need to know what our time frame looks like as of today, because, you know, in another 6 weeks, the weather's going to break, and there's going to be a couple anxious gentlemen around that are going to want to put a shovel in the ground. So I'm trying to discover what we're looking at in terms of moving forward as it relates to that.
Okay, through Your Worship. Well, as I noted, you know, in the presentation with respect to the capital improvements, you're looking end of building construction, and with respect to the policies, the IDF curve should be done in the next month, but the technical guide for the stormwater management is going to be 8 to 10 months, and that's something that we're going to be tied to heavily. So 8 to 10 months, I guess, is right in line with when council passed the year interim control bylaw. You'll be rolling in right on the year that you guys passed last September.
Anyone else? Okay, Mr. Clunder, you'd like to come forward? And it's that purple button on top of the, we'll turn it on for you.
Most honorable Mayor,
members of council. My name is Ben Klundert. I am an owner of BK Cornerstone and Kimball Estates, as well as president of the Windsor Essex Home Builders Association. We currently own the Duck Creek Park, Forest Hill, and Cooper's Mill developments in Lakeshore, as well as build all homes in Fairview Estates and Strawberry Gardens in LaSalle and Arpino Ave in Windsor, and are in the infancy stages of 2 developments in Kingsville. In the mid to late 1990s, Essex was known as the hub of Essex County, and builders and developers were quickly lining up to do business in the town of Essex. Businesses were popping up on a regular basis and new housing starts were brisk. BK Cornerstone was in the early stages of purchasing land with the intention to launch a higher-end townhome development. In 2002-2003, Essex had maxed out its sewage capacity and permits and development ceased until the new infrastructure had been completed. Builders and developers such as ourselves went elsewhere in Essex County to conduct business in Lakeshore and LaSalle, and were assured that all infrastructure would handle our requirements, and upon their assurances, we invested heavily in their communities. It took all of 4 years to complete the infrastructure upgrades needed to continue building in Essex. New home starts had come to a halt during that time span, while other areas in Essex County forged ahead. It took an additional few years for consumer confidence to return. As other developers viewed this as poor planning on the town's part, we still purchased the property known today as Kimball Estates from the Kimball family and believed that Essex would still be a great place to do business. When sewage capacity was restored, we opened Kimball Estates on condition that the first phase storm sewer would be directed to Fairview and the remaining phases would be directed to Bryan Street, or Bryan Ave, I should say. We were then told that our second phase would not proceed without the storm sewer main installed in the existing Jacana development. The town completed Hanlon Street, and all costs were bore to our development as well as the Jacana development, and we would have hoped that the town would proceed in the same manner with the storm trunk main that needed to be installed in the Jacana development. We were told that the only way Kimball would move forward was if we negotiated a deal ourselves with the Jacana developer, which left us in a bad situation of trying to negotiate with another developer knowing that our lots would be in direct competition with theirs. 3 more years went by with no intervention from the town. It seemed that the Essex was quite contented with leaving a partially completed development in the middle of town. It wasn't until offering to purchase a substantial amount of lots in another development of theirs that an agreement was made that the money from the sale of the lots would then have to be used to install the section of storm trunk main needed to allow our development to proceed. Again, proper planning would suggest that an appropriate servicing agreement with Jacana would have allowed for future development to proceed. Phase 2 finally started in 2014. Kimball Estates was allowed to start because the storm trunk main had been installed, and we quickly installed the stretch from the existing phase to Bryan Ave. We were back in business and sales began to generate momentum. 1 year later, the town has enacted the interim control bylaw, and we have come to a complete stop again. Although we fully appreciate the situation the town is in, we want you to appreciate both the substantial investment we have in this project, as well as direct ramifications we see, which will highly impact the way the building, developing, and business community view Essex for future development. As you can see, Essex has literally taken itself out of the new home and developing market, and we fear that as a place we value for future business, that if the proper steps are not taken to immediately spur new home growth and get Essex moving as quickly as possible, all builders and developers will leave Essex for good and possibly not return. The quicker permits can be released, the quicker the message will be received from the business community, and the town of Essex wants new development.